You have probably heard it said 100 times that narcissistic abuse causes brain damage. But I want to go deeper today. There are very specific ways a narcissist can alter your brain. And these are damages that most people never even realize they're suffering from until it's too late. It's about how they hack into your mind, leaving lasting scars that affect your thoughts, your memory, and even your sense of self. Hi, I am Danish, a narcissistic abuse recovery professional, and this episode is all about exploring 5 types of brain damage narcissistic abuse causes. If that sounds interesting, stay until the very end. Number one, brain fog. Brain fog is one of the most disorienting and frustrating symptoms of brain damage a narcissistic abuse survivor can experience. Imagine waking up in the morning ready to start your day, but as soon as you try to focus, it's like you're surrounded by a thick, invisible cloud. It's hard to think clearly, find words, or remember what you were just doing. Tasks that should be simple, like making a grocery list or even deciding what to have for breakfast, become exhausting. You walk into a room only to forget why you went there. Conversations become difficult because halfway through you lose track of what you were saying. It's as if your thoughts are swimming in molasses, and no matter how hard you try, you can't reach them. Brain fog affects everything from your productivity at your work to your relationships at home. You may feel slow, forgetful, and mentally tired even after a full night's sleep. It's like someone hit the pause button on your mental clarity and never pressed play again. Everyday life becomes an uphill battle as you're constantly struggling to clear your mind and stay focused. Scientifically, brain fog is more than just a mental block. It's a neurological condition that occurs when the brain's functioning slows down, often due to prolonged stress, anxiety, or emotional trauma, things that are common in narcissistic abuse survivors. The chronic stress of dealing with a narcissist disrupts the balance of chemicals in the brain, particularly neurotransmitters like serotonin and dopamine, which regulate mood, energy, and focus. Additionally, the constant state of high alert that comes from living with a narcissist, where you never know when the next outburst will happen, leads to elevated levels of cortisol, adrenaline, and noradrenaline. All of these are stress hormones. Over time, excessive cortisol can damage the hippocampus, the part of the brain responsible for memory and learning. This damage can make it harder to concentrate, form new memories, or recall old ones. It's as if the brain's energy is being redirected from clear thinking and problem solving to simply surviving. The parts of the brain responsible for higher functions like decision making and emotional regulation get hijacked by the fight or flight response, making it difficult to focus or feel mentally present. Number two, developmental or infantile amnesia occurs in cases of long-term narcissistic abuse, especially if it began in childhood. Early traumatic memories are not stored in the same way as adult memories. If you grew up with a narcissistic parent, your hippocampus, the part of the brain responsible for forming and retrieving memories, might not have developed normally. That's crazy. This can lead to a lifelong struggle with remembering events from childhood, especially the painful ones. Amnesia can also function as a type of denial, a psychological way of saying, this did not happen because I can't bear for it to have happened. Your brain creates a distance between you and the traumatic events by obscuring them. It is the mind's way of protecting itself, keeping the traumatic reality at an arm's length so you can continue to cope on a daily basis. Damage type 3, rumination. Rumination is like being stuck on a mental hamster wheel. You're running and running, but you are not getting anywhere. Think of a hamster spinning endlessly, using all of its energy, but never arriving at a destination. That's exactly what rumination feels like. Your mind gets locked into a cycle of repetitive thoughts, usually focusing on past mistakes, regrets, or worries about the future. It's like a broken record that keeps playing the same distressing tune over and over again, making it nearly impossible to break free and move forward. From a scientific perspective, rumination is a kind of brain freeze response where the mind gets stuck in overthinking as a way to cope with overwhelming stress. You get no closure in a narcissistic relationship, which is why your brain responds by replaying scenarios and conversations trying to solve an unsolvable puzzle. This endless mental loop can paralyze you, draining your emotional energy and keeping you stuck in a cycle of fear, anxiety, and doubt. Rumination is also a sign of hyperarousal, which is the opposite of a hyperactive stress response. Instead of feeling like you are in overdrive, hypoarousal makes you feel slowed down, numb, and detached. It's like your brain's way of shutting down to protect you from the intense emotions and overwhelm caused by the narcissist abuse. In this state, the brain becomes froze, unable to move forward or make decisions. This is why many people who experience rumination also struggle with symptoms of depression. It feels like you're stuck in quicksand, emotionally paralyzed by an endless stream of negative thoughts. Rumination is closely linked to depression because it keeps you trapped in a negative feedback loop. Each time you revisit a painful memory or think about the hurtful things a narcissist said or did, you reinforce those neural pathways in your brain, of course, unintentionally. Over time, this pattern of repetitive thinking can deepen feelings of hopelessness and helplessness, making it harder to see a way out. In some ways, rumination is a defense mechanism, a misguided attempt by your brain to regain control over a situation where you felt powerless. By replaying events, your mind believes it can uncover a solution, avoid future pain, or make sense of the chaos. However, in reality, it only keeps you tethered to the past, reinforcing the very fears and anxieties you're trying to escape. Number four, hyperactivity that feels like ADHD. Hyperactivity can make you feel like your brain is stuck in high gear, unable to shift down. When you are caught in this mode, simple tasks can feel overwhelming because your thoughts are darting around like a ping pong ball. You might sit down to read a book, but your mind drifts to a dozen different worries. It's like living with a noisy, crowded mental space where you can't filter out what's important from what's not. Research suggests a strong link between psychological trauma and ADHD like symptoms. Emotional abuse rewires your brain, keeping it in a heightened state of alertness. This hyperawareness isn't just a temporary reaction, it becomes ingrained in your neural pathways. The part of the brain responsible for decision making and impulse control, the prefrontal cortex, can be impacted, leading to impulsivity and difficulty concentrating, which are classic traits of ADHD. Tasks that require sustained attention become nearly impossible to tackle, as if every attempt to focus feels like climbing a mountain with no end in sight. You might constantly feel restless, always needing to move, change tasks, or seek something new to engage your mind, mirroring the experience of those with ADHD. Simple responsibilities can feel overwhelming because your mind is stuck in a perpetual state of overstimulation, desperately trying to cope with the unseen emotional wounds. Number five, and the last one, decision fatigue. Decision fatigue is a pervasive issue for those who have endured narcissistic abuse. Can't deny that. It manifests as a paralyzing sense of indecisiveness, leaving you second guessing even the smallest choices. This isn't about being bad at making decisions. No, it's the result of chronic conditioning. In that relationship with the narcissist, you are likely punished or shamed for making the wrong decisions. even if it was something trivial, which created a deep-seated fear of making mistakes, leading to a pattern where even the simplest choices like what to eat, what to wear, or what to say feel like high-stakes decisions. Every choice becomes a potential minefield, charged with the fear of humiliation or emotional punishment. Imagine sitting at a restaurant with a friend trying to decide what to order. For most people, this is a mundane task, but for you, it feels like you are about to trigger an emotional landmine. Your heart races, your palms sweat, and your mind goes blank. What if you choose the wrong dish? What if your choice isn't good enough? Suddenly, a simple decision spirals into an overwhelming panic attack because deep down you're expecting to be judged, ridiculed, or reprimanded, just like you were by that narcissist. A narcissist convinced you that you could not make decisions without their guidance, embedding a deep sense of inadequacy long after they are gone. This leads you to defer your power, trusting others, anyone but you, to know what's best. This constant uncertainty drains you, leaving you mentally exhausted and emotionally paralyzed when facing choices. Making decisions, even minor ones, depletes your emotional reserves, causing fatigue and indecisiveness. All in all, it's a struggle, and your brain alters its structure to survive narcissistic abuse, and you have to do a lot of healing work to reverse the damage. That was number 5, and with that, let's bring this episode to an end. Thank you so much for listening. I will talk to you in the next one. Until then, as always, let the healing begin and continue.